Okay, so today we're going to be working on this 2002 Chevy, or GMC Sierra, sorry. It's been in my family for a number of years. I no longer use the machinery that's inside of it and have replaced it with the 2023 Ford E-Transit. Well, I've had it up for sale for a while now, but it's outfitted for carpet cleaning, and as you can imagine, it's a pretty small market to try and sell a carpet cleaning machine. So I'm going to strip out all the equipment and going to put it up for sale as just a cargo van and yeah, get it sold. So in here we've got the water pumps, the vacuum pumps, and the hot water exchange. Now this unit is driven off a drive shaft here, which is then connected through belts to the engine. And then this tank here is the freshwater tank. You can see there. That is your gray water tank. And you've got your vacuum hoses and your freshwater fill hose. And down here you've got your high pressure hot water hose. So this is the dual stage filtration. And man, with carpet cleaning, those things get nasty. Everything that is not in liquid state goes in there. So soils, hair. So after like maybe a week, you'll get 2 sacks that are like a liter or 2 each, and those are filled with solids. So that's not a fun job to clean out. And then this is for the natural gas. So this vehicle is a dual fuel setup. Unfortunately, this tank was rated for 3,000 psi, and currently systems use 3,500 psi. So this tank is basically useless and needs to be decommissioned anyways. And then one other thing we have to do to this van before we put it up for sale is the ignition coil seems to be on its way out. Had in for service, I guess that was back in January. They pointed out the ignition coil needed to be changed. One other nice advantage to electric van is, as you can see, the van is turned off, but I can still have my headlights on. I don't have to worry about draining battery, and I mean, this will run for a week or 2 on battery power. This gives me some extra work light. And then also these lights in here. I think they're on a timer, so we'll see how long they run for. Okay, so I got some of the stuff out of here now. So yeah, next we're gonna start unbolting these racks here, getting these out of the way, and then I think I'm gonna leave the doghouse here for last because I gotta take care of the drive shaft that's going up to the engine bay and a lot of these hoses and stuff. So I'm gonna take out these 2 racks first, and then take a look at these tanks, take these out last. All right, so I got the first bolt out of here. The rest of them I'm having troubles with. They're pretty rusty, but also there's bolted through from underneath the van. And so you basically have to have a wrench or a ratchet down below and then something up above. So I've been using penetrating oil. It's helped a bit. Reefing on it with a power ratchet. That's okay. I've used this guy a bit. This tool, I love it. But it also kind of scares me, the amount of torque it has. So putting a wrench on one end of the bolt and then using this guy on the other end, the amount of kick and torque it has, I've mangled my fingers a few times. So I think I'm just going to go at it with a Sawzall and just cut the bolts out. Alright, well, for metal blades, teeth don't last so long. Alright, 1 down. 2 more to go. This hose reel is going to be too tall to get out. It's pretty heavy too. I mean, I could take the hose off and try and tip it, I guess. Worst case, if that doesn't work, I'll just have to unbolt it here, detach it off this frame. Okay, so I was able to get the freshwater tank that sat right here, the big one, and the filtration tank out. These bolts here, there's the fuel tank that runs right here underneath. So I can't get a tool above the fuel tank to take those out. So I've had to cut that one. And I've already been through 6 or 7 blades and I'm on my last blade. So trying to cut that last bolt and then should be good to go. Okay, and that tank is free. You've got a drive shaft that's running off a pulley off the engine. Comes down to here, and this here's the vacuum pump. You're running a vacuum off of a 6-liter V8 essentially. Then down here you've got your high pressure water pump. These typically go to about 400 to 500 psi. And follow along, that feeds into the heat exchanger for the water. And then back out to the control board here. And then you've got all your connections for your water lines here. So you're pumping engine coolant through the heat exchanger, and that's what's heating up the fresh water supply. It's in a little bit rough shape. That's why this machine's been retired. This is going to be a chore to get out. This whole base is all rusted and corroded. So, in the meantime, might as well get cleaning this up. Okay, so my Milwaukee Pack-Out vacuum. I love this thing, but I just used it to clean up concrete dust a couple days ago, and apparently the filter's completely clogged. I tried to blow it out with air compressor, and I still couldn't get the filter unclogged. So, of course, I could just run an extension cord over the power, but no better excuse than to try out the Pro Power on board. Give a little demonstration of how this works. Pro Power on. I haven't run anything other than Milwaukee chargers off it so far, so I'm kind of curious myself. Okay, so idling at 200 watts. Let's turn the vacuum on and see what it goes to. Alright, so it's showing give or take 1400 watts. That's interesting. I didn't think it would have a dip in power when it first started up like a generator, but yeah, it just confirms on my suspicion. It handles it no problem. Okay, so I'm going to just take the Chevy van for a test drive here. I want to see what the difference is driving without all the weight in the back. However, the ignition coil is still a problem, so I kind of have my doubts that we'll be able to get it started. Yeah. With the starter motor cranking it, the battery voltage drops to probably like 10.5, 11 volts, and I don't think that that's giving enough power at the spark plugs to actually start the vehicle. But it seems like if I do jump start it, it's able to make up the difference in voltage just enough that it's igniting. But here, we'll give it a shot and see if we can get it going. Oh, I am surprised. First try. It's definitely not running great. Stumbling a bit. day on the van. So I still need to get the pumps, coolant lines taken care of in the van. And the coolant lines that go to the heat exchanger, they go into the coolant lines from the engine block into the heater core on the firewall. And being a van, there's really tight space to get up in there. So I might take it into a shop to get those disconnected. I might make a follow-up video doing all that, as well as doing a deep clean on the van and getting it ready for sale. Yeah, it was really interesting to see what it felt like after all the weight was taken out, because as long as I've ever had it, it's always had all those tanks and everything inside. So I'm not really sure on the exact weight, but probably at least 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of weight. You really notice it when the tanks are full, though, because I don't know, maybe 120 liters of water. I don't know what the exact math is on weight on that, but you can feel the whole suspension sagging down in the van when it's the tanks are full, and it really makes a difference in braking and acceleration. It's definitely nice to be back in the Ford Transit. It's just so much smoother and refined, and obviously there's a 21-year gap in the age of the vehicles. I used to do a lot of work on cars when I was younger, and finally just got fed up with it, and I've had the Bolt now for 5.5 years. Other than tires and wiper blades and the one recall, it's completely maintenance free. And that's with over 200,000 kilometers of driving on it. Really, that's where the electric cars come in for me, is that I love cars, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be working on them all the time, and I'd rather just enjoy driving them instead of always having to worry about what's got to get fixed, what's going to break down. And really, they're not much different mechanically than a brushless drill. You don't have to worry about over revving or overdoing it on a drill. If you push it too hard, it'll protect itself from going any further. And same thing with electric cars. Like, they don't really care if you floor them all the time. Sure, you've got stuff like drive shafts and tires, but those are not usually the weakest link in the equation. When I was younger, I had Nissans, I had Toyotas, I had SR20s with 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. One car is pushing close to 300 horse, which might not sound like a lot, but on a 2,400 pound car, it definitely had some get up and go. I've had R32 Skyline with a RB20 in it. It's a 2-liter straight 6 turbo. That was about 270 horse. I had a Toyota Aristo, which had the 2JZ Toyota twin turbo 3-liter straight 6. I think that was pushing somewhere around the 330, 350 mark. Yeah, I mean, those cars are tons of fun. I love the sound of them. Can't really beat a straight 6 turbo as far as sound goes. I miss driving manual, but something to be said to be able to get in a car, be able to go to twisty mountain roads and have some spirited driving and be completely silent, and you're not drawing attention to yourself or being a heat score. I just don't have to think about, oh, okay, well, am I going to overheat that, or is that pipe clamped down enough? Do I have boost leaks? Do I have yada yada yada? And I just know I can go drive it, put my foot down, and not even have to care about it. So that's what gave me kind of the confidence of buying the Transit. Is yes, it's a short range vehicle. So for some people that might not, 210 kilometers might not sound like a lot, but I'm used to driving my Bolts as my primary car, and I was a little bit anxious at first when I got it, worrying about if there'd be enough range and what kind of maintenance things could possibly come up, but so far proven to be the most reliable vehicle I've ever had. It's still going strong. So when I say maintenance free, I'm not saying that obviously your suspension components and your brakes and all that, those are going to be the same. On the Bolts, the two things I've noticed is my brake pads are still at about 85-90% from the original brake pads, the 200 and some odd thousand kilometers on them. Now, that's mostly because of regenerative braking in the car. Unless you're decelerating quickly, whether it's an emergency or you're spirited driving, you don't even really touch the brakes. It's completely all done regeneratively. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. So the good thing is you don't wear out your pads, but the bad thing is that your rotors tend to corrode, and it can lead to premature caliper seizure because they're just not getting used. So I know my one caliper is sticking a bit, so that might have to be addressed. I might be able to just grease it up and throw it back on. And my rotors are definitely showing some surface wear to them, just corrosion on the disc rotors. I'm not really too worried about it though. I have more than enough braking power with just regenerative braking. And the odd time I actually have to use the disc brakes, it's not at a point that it's causing any safety issues. It's just more of an annoyance. When I'm talking about maintenance free, I'm talking about you don't have an exhaust, so you don't have to worry about mufflers, you don't have to worry about exhaust leaks, gaskets. You don't have a cooling system. Well, you do, but it's not getting the same temperature, so you don't have the same expansion and contraction issues. You're not pressurizing the system the same. That's virtually maintenance free. You don't have belts on the vacuum line. You don't have an alternator. You don't have like stuff like head gaskets. You don't have things like oil to change. You don't have any of these items are causing vibrations. You don't have any items are causing heat. Really, you only have one moving part, and that's the rotor itself within the motor. And that's not something that has high wear, because it's not like a piston that's going up and down causing lots of heat with lots of force from changing direction. It's a constant one direction. It's not impacting on anything. It's always balanced. So you really have two bearings in there. There's no reason that shouldn't last 750,000, 1,million kilometers, 2,000,000 kilometers. It's pretty incredible how simple they are. When I compare it to a brushless drill, it's really not that much different. You've got a lithium battery with a BMS, battery management system. You've got a motor controller, and you've got a brushless motor. And that's it. That's what really gave me confidence with getting the e-Transit, is that I was already accustomed to what an electric car would be like. You know, I could have kept this van. I could have stripped out all the stuff in it and used it as a work van. But when you start comparing the fuel costs compared to just financing an electric van, pretty much the same on month-to-month cost. Just swapping fuel for payment. I don't have a maintenance bill to think about. I don't have oil changes. It's just not even a factor. And we're comparing two vehicles that are 22 years or 21 years apart in age. So you get all the creature comforts and the tech with the new vehicle, and you get the look. That's important with just the curb appeal. It just all made sense financially to sell this van off and get the e-Transit. So speaking of cost, last month between both the Bolt and the e-Transit, all my driving for work and personal came to $109 after tax for the month. Probably did close to about 4,000 kilometers of driving for the month, and $109. To put that in perspective, on my Cummins truck, I was averaging between $1,200 and $1,500 a month in diesel. Additionally, with the Cummins, with that amount of driving, fairly frequent oil changes, and those oil changes, if I remember correctly, take 16 liters of oil, or 12 liters of oil. So for me to do an oil change, even if I do it myself, we're still looking at $140 for oil and a filter, and the shops are wanting $180 to $200 for an oil change. So you factor that in, that e-Transit doesn't take that anymore, or it doesn't have oil changes. Well, I mean, right there you're talking $1,200 a year just in oil changes.